But if you look at it, it's all controlled. And then why is the CIA funding third world country record labels? Why is that happening?
Leonardo DiCaprio's representatives have quietly moved into crisis mode, but the material they're trying to suppress goes far beyond Jeffrey Epstein's recently unsealed records. The deeper controversy appears tied to Sean Combs' private archives, where newly uncovered footage and exclusive guest lists reportedly placed DiCaprio within two overlapping circles of scandal that Hollywood insiders believed had long been contained. For years, attention stayed fixed on the Epstein documents. Now, sources claim Combs' notorious freak-off gatherings, currently under federal investigation, feature familiar names, matching timelines, and the same suspicious pattern: silence, then sudden legal panic. DiCaprio's camp has dismissed resurfaced images from parties in 2004 and 2019 as misleading, yet the denials arrived just as recordings from Combs' inner circle began leaking, including one moment where he allegedly says, "We're losing." His attorneys are now arguing those tapes were taken illegally while pursuing an emergency lawsuit against Netflix. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice is sitting on more than 2 million pages tied to the Epstein investigation, but has released only a tiny fraction after missing another court deadline. At the same time, Combs' sons are preparing their own documentary response while facing separate misconduct and battery claims. What raises eyebrows is the timing.
What I've gathered from your articles, this seems to be a global network that Epstein was a part of, and I believe there are multiple Epsteins. Like, I don't believe that Jeffrey Epstein was the head of the snake. Yeah, like, they never go after the head of the snake. They never go after
the head of the snake, quote unquote, it's the billionaire class, and so there's a faction of these billionaires in our oligarchy. And of course, the American oligarchy, the American oligarchs don't necessarily, a lot of them don't have an allegiance necessarily to the United States.
DiCaprio's team downplaying old party connections while Combs' filings reference confidential settlements, and Ghislaine Maxwell's deposition reportedly names nearly 30 protected individuals. Some still powerful, others still highly visible. More records are expected to surface. Rumors are already spreading, and the figures who once believed their status guaranteed protection may soon discover otherwise. When the first wave of Epstein-connected documents entered the public record last December, Leonardo DiCaprio's attorneys reacted with unusual speed. Old images vanished from the internet. Whispers about past parties were aggressively disputed, and quiet calls reportedly went out of contacts within the Department of Justice. But something about the response felt disproportionate. If the concern was limited to Epstein alone, why expand the defense to include distancing him from Sean Combs' inner circle as well? The explanation appears buried in leaked internal messages from Combs' legal staff, shared by people familiar with the matter. Those communications suggest DiCaprio's name surfaces not only in Epstein's aviation logs, but also on guest rosters tied to Combs' most exclusive events, notably the 2004 White Party in Miami and the 2019 50th birthday celebration in Los Angeles. Both gatherings have since become focal points in the federal probe surrounding Combs' activities. What complicates matters further is the difference in documentation. Epstein kept manifests and records. Combs allegedly archived everything on camera, according to several individuals with first-hand knowledge. Prosecutors now possess extensive footage from those functions, and they say the recordings show more than a celebrity dropping by. They capture conversations and behavior that clash with the polished public persona DiCaprio has cultivated as an environmentally conscious industry figure. Questions about the Justice Department's approach to the Epstein files have lingered from the beginning, yet their conduct regarding the Combs material has raised even more eyebrows. Officials were required by court order to disclose all non-classified Epstein documents by December 19th, 2025.
Diddy really screwed up, and I'm not referring to his criminal trial, which has him sitting in prison right now, but it has to do with something that happened right before he got arrested. If you've seen the Netflix documentary about Diddy, The Reckoning, which 50 Cent produced, there's some footage there that had never been seen before. This is a photographer that Diddy hired to follow him around and
Instead, they released barely over 12,000 files, roughly 1%, while withholding a massive archive exceeding 2 million pages, including seized audio and video evidence. Frustration on Capitol Hill is growing. Lawmakers have floated subpoenas, and representatives such as Rona and Thomas Massey have openly accused the department of ignoring its legal obligations. Still, the bigger mystery isn't the delay itself. It's what might be buried inside what hasn't been disclosed. According to sources within the agency, some of the most explosive evidence doesn't concern Epstein alone, but the intersection between his network and Combs' circle, the same names appearing across both worlds. That overlap is precisely where DiCaprio's situation becomes sensitive. His team's forceful rejection of old party photographs may not simply be routine image control. It may be an effort to stop a chain reaction. Because if Combs' recordings show questionable moments, and Epstein's travel documents confirm repeated trips aboard the so-called Lolita Express, the storyline changes. It stops looking like coincidence or casual proximity and starts resembling something far more deliberate, something closer to involvement. The issue isn't simply the existence of recordings. It's the recurring pattern behind them. Sean Combs' legal crisis didn't suddenly appear with his arrest in September 2024. The groundwork had been laid years earlier through persistent rumors about his so-called freak-off gatherings, parties where the atmosphere allegedly crossed a line from indulgence into something far more troubling. One early hint came back in 2016, when Usher, who had lived with Combs as a teenager, told Howard Stern that you could open a random door and find people in the middle of something. At the time, it sounded like exaggerated celebrity gossip. After federal agents raided Combs' properties in March 2024 and reportedly discovered large quantities of drugs along with professional recording gear, those old comments suddenly felt less like jokes and more like warnings. What separates Combs from other hosts, however, is documentation. He didn't just throw events. He archived them. According to a producer involved with 50 Cent's recent Netflix project, prosecutors now possess extensive video from those nights. And the footage reportedly shows more than stars partying. It captures moments that, as one lawyer familiar with the material put it, wouldn't last 5 minutes under courtroom scrutiny. That context makes DiCaprio's team's recent attempt to erase or downplay images from the same era look less like routine reputation management and more like preemptive damage control. It suggests an awareness of what might surface if those recordings ever become public. Then there's Ghislaine Maxwell's latest habeas petition from her Texas prison, which adds another layer. The filing doesn't directly name Epstein's associates, but refers to 29 men who allegedly secured quiet settlements to avoid charges. No identities are listed, yet the timing speaks volumes. Her motion landed just as the Justice Department was expected to release additional Epstein materials. Even the language co-conspirators, protected individuals, financial agreements, echoes terminology found in Combs' own court filings, whereas attorneys reference confidential third-party settlements connected to his events. That similarity is difficult to dismiss as coincidence. Consider Leon Black, the billionaire financier tied to Epstein and political power brokers, who paid
Hard to say because there's still such a big question mark in the air because, Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, is one of the executive producers on this series. Him, the director, Netflix in general, is not saying where they got this footage, only that it was obtained legally. Diddy's side is saying this is coming from a videographer I hired. I know we'll get into the cease and desist. One of the arguments they make is, this is subject to NDAs or agreements that the videographer had signed with Diddy because he was, employed by Diddy.
$5 million in 2021 to resolve claims linked to Epstein's operations. No courtroom battle, no public testimony, just a quiet check and closure. The same playbook seems to appear around Combs. Disputes settled privately, records sealed, conversations hushed. Meanwhile, Combs' sons Justin and Christian are racing to release a documentary intended to defend the family name. Yet both face their own legal accusations, undermining the project's credibility before it even premieres. The film feels less like storytelling and more like a last-minute effort to seize control of a narrative that's slipping through their fingers. The urgency, with their father's appeal unresolved and federal files still partially locked away, hints at fear rather than confidence. Perhaps the most revealing element isn't what the public has seen, but what remains obscured. The Justice Department says it's censoring documents to protect victims, yet entire pages are blacked out, timelines vanish, and references to unnamed third parties appear without explanation. The gaps feel intentional. One partially visible email from 2020, written by a federal prosecutor, mentions that Donald Trump flew on Epstein's jet more frequently than previously disclosed. If something that sensitive slipped through the redactions, it raises an obvious question. What else is being withheld? The Combs connection only deepens the intrigue. Trump wasn't linked solely to Epstein. He was also photographed with Combs at numerous high-profile events in the late 90s and early 2000s, including a 2019 Met Gala after-party, where security reportedly had to step in. If one unexpected name keeps resurfacing, it's reasonable to wonder how many others might appear as the records continue to unfold. What's happening now looks less like an isolated controversy and more like the